back in the open session. Danny, can you start us with the pledge of allegiance?
Yes, sir. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Okay, on to certification closed session items. Roll call.
Madam Clerk, would we certify for the first session? And then we haven't adopted our agenda yet, so we're at certification. Do you want to certify for our first closed session now or do it? No, we're gonna defer those till the second. So do we certify?
Okay,
Okay, so we're gonna skip that one because we're not quite done with our time yet, and so.
I guess Dr. Gretz, you want
No.
So I don't have actions because we'll have to wait until next time, so I'll defer those until you come out of closed the second time.
Okay.
And then I'll make those recommendations.
on to adoption of the agenda?
Great. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, we adopt the agenda, but with some fine tuning here. So clearly, we just skipped over certification and closed session actions. And therefore, that is because we're gonna need another round of closed session after we deal with our public business. So to that end, let me go in order through the agenda and tell you what I'd like to modify. First, obviously, we're not gonna act on four for certification or closed session actions. I like to strip 6C of the consent agenda for now and deal with that later in the meeting. I'd like to add a number 16, a second closed session. Number 17, would that be certification of closed session? And within that, 17A would be approval of personal recommendations, effectively replacing 6C. 17B will be approval of student cases, effectively replacing 4B. And then adjournment would be 18.
That's your motion.
It is.
I'll second.
All right. Thank you for that second, Danny. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Vice Chair votes aye. On to the consent agenda. I guess at this point, board, we need to decide our next meeting next month. We need to start at 3 o'clock. And with the,
Sorry, that's 3 p.m.
I'm sorry, yes, 3 p.m.
3 p.m. for next month.
for closed and then regular session at 6:30.
Does that need to be voted on or acted upon?
Yes.
Is that part of the consent agenda or is that something we need to add?
I think that's something.
Okay, real quick, since we're on the consent agenda, we have A, B, and D. Remind me, was anybody absent from the last meeting that would need to pull the minutes?
I wasn't involved in the regular part of the meeting because I couldn't get in on the iPad Zoom meeting.
Okay, let's do,
Everybody else was.
I'm gonna make a motion one by one here.
Okay.
So first up, I want to approve the minutes of the prior school board meeting, allowing any members that were absent to abstain. That's a motion.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Abstain.
With Charles abstain. Okay, next motion.
I'd like to move that we approve the monthly claims, so that's approval of consent agenda 6B.
I got a second for 6B. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye.
All right. I'm gonna I would like to make a motion to approve consent agenda 60, an overnight field trip for the FMS drone competition.
I'll second.
I have a second. Is there any further discussion?
I'll throw a quick shout out for them. If anybody's looking to donate to help sponsor them, I know they're looking for sponsors and this team is awesome. So there's my little plug.
And is there any additional information we need before we vote on this, or you're good? You recommend that we approve this?
Yep.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Any opposed? All right, have consent agenda.
All right, and then because I wasn't aware, I need to add this, and that's my bad. I'm gonna move that we amend the agenda to add, I guess here, under 6. Why don't we just do it under action items? Why don't we add, I'm gonna move that we amend the agenda to add action item 12B, which will be approval of an closed session starting at 3 p.m. On our next meeting, which would be April the 9th, it looks like. And so you'd be voting now just for it to appear under action items, and we will then dispatch with that vote when we do other action items, just to make it tidy.
All right, do I have a motion?
Yeah, that was a motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right, second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Any opposed?
And so, Madam Clerk, 12B will be an action item to amend our close time for next month. I think that's all of consent agenda and whoopsies.
Yeah, on now to public comments, 7A. We're coming to time in our meeting for public comments. I remind everyone that policy, our members of the community, meaning residents of Fluvanna and the staff of Fluid County Public School, address the board unless you are a legal counsel representing the group interested in night proceedings. We welcome all community members who are here to give information and opinions. We ask you to come to the podium, tell us your name, address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. We'll start with the names on the sign-up sheet, but you're welcome your input if you didn't sign up. On the public comments, the board will not interact with you, but we will listen. Do we have anyone signed up? Coach Pace.
Hello, thank you. Mitchell Pace, 3818 Branch Road, Cunningham District. Most of you guys know me as the head football coach. That's right. Most of the county knows me, but I come before you today to talk about a sport that's not as well publicized, and that is Fluco Swim and Dive. We just finished States Up last week, and I just wanted to kind of call attention to, in general, what the team did and some of the standout individual performances and team performances. We had a young lady, Kaylee Heron, who got 3rd in dive. Cass Johnson got 4th in dive. James Johnson got 6th in dive. We had our girls 200 free relay get 5th place. Our girls 400 free relay get 5th place and break the school record. So just some amazing performances. Really proud of these guys. They don't get a whole lot of recognition, but really what I came forward to talk about was one young lady in particular who thought might show up tonight, but she's not here. This is not formal recognition, but this young lady deserves as much recognition as Fluvanna County can give her. Just go ahead and say it out front. Alex Fuller is probably the best all-around athlete I've ever coached, and I've been coaching here for 20 years. I just want it to be known what it is that she did and how kind of extraordinary it was. She is such a committed young lady, such a kind young lady, such a wonderful person, but on top of it, she's an amazing swimmer. So I had to type it up because I just could not keep it in my head, all the stuff that she's accomplished just as a part of our swim program here. So I'll go ahead and kind of rattle it off. If you guys can keep up, please ask questions if you've got them about some of the stuff I'm going to say. She is so outstanding at swimming that she made the individual state cut qualifying times in basically every event that we offer, with the exception of one, and that's only because we didn't swim her in, right? Like, that's how extraordinary she is. She got 4 All-American times in her high school career, which means that she was one of the top 100 fastest in that event for that year. She did that 4 times. She won 5 regional championships while she swam for Fluvanna. This year, she was the regional swimmer of the year. She actually holds, I believe it's 5 individual Fluvanna County High School records on her own, so she'll be on the board down the hall from the weight room. On top of that, she is also an amazing student. She holds a 4.2 plus GPA. I'm lucky enough to teach her in AP government as well. And she got a full ride D1 scholarship to swim for Northeastern in Boston next year. Also, oh yeah, by the way, she also has won 3 state championships, right? That's kind of the highlight of this major list here is she won 2 last Tuesday. And to kind of put this in perspective, guys, like I said, I've coached here for 20 years. I've reached out to other people that have coached for 30, 40 years, like my father, stuff like that, to see how often this has happened and how often it hasn't happened. Hasn't happened but 3 total times in the history of Fluvanna County that one individual has won multiple championships in one day, and Alex has 3. She won 2 last Tuesday and 1 last year. So just truly an exceptional young lady. And of all those other athletes that have done it, the 3 that have done it before, they're all young men. So just want to call attention to a little known sport in Fluvanna Swim and Dive, and a young woman in athletics that is just doing amazing things that I'm so proud to be a part of. So just want to call attention to Alex Fuller, and if you guys can give her some recognition whenever it's a senior night.
And before you go, just board members, just so you're aware, we were hopeful to do something during the delegations, but it was too late to amend the agenda, so we thought we'd do it this way. While you're here, would you introduce some other students you got with you?
Absolutely. So as you guys well know, my AP government students are required to attend local government meetings, school board and board of supervisors. It's important to see what local government looks like. So we have 2 here today. We have Miss Katie Vaughn and Mr. Logan Schaefer. I know others have been coming, and hopefully they'll keep trickling. They only got really about 1 more month before their project is due on this. So a couple here as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Anybody else with public comments?
My name is Cameron Berneinerstein, live at 19 Seminole Trail in Palmyra. Good evening. Our schools face an impending crisis. The administration in Washington has made it clear they intend to make heavy cuts to the Department of Education. I hope I don't have to remind this board how much we depend on federal funding to meet our budgetary needs. It's very likely that many difficult decisions await this board. I do not envy any of you this task. I simply wish to remind you all that public education, available and free to all, attempting to meet the needs of all students, is one of the greatest goods that society has ever produced. A society that works to turn children from blank slates into thinking adults is a society that builds its own future. I hope this board will fight in any way it can to keep free access and quality education first and foremost in their priorities in the face of an impending budget disaster. Thank you for your time.
Do you have anyone else? Seeing no one else coming, we'll close this one on public comments. So 8 delegations, there's none, right, Dr. Chris?
That's right. Ms. Tinsley was set to be here. She just got a message in between the break there that she had just gotten out of track practice and was not going to be able to come. She regrets that. And because of snow and ice, we weren't able to see her last month, but we're very hopeful that she'll be with us because she is an exceptional kid. Be with us next time.
Okay, Dr. Gretz, reports from the superintendent.
Thank you, board members. So we've got a lot of information for you, and I'll tell you maybe just at the start, and any feedback that you have for me, I'll take it. We try not to amend the agenda once it's put out a week in advance. We try not to amend it. There's a lot of developing information, and so I always kind of war with whether to put it in because it's great material for us to have and don't want to wait a month, but yet don't want to make a lot of changes. I'm saying that just because we've been interacting with the county, as you're aware, as they've gone through their work sessions. We've gotten some questions from them. There's some questions that came up during the work session. I've gotten some individual questions, and as I respond to those and we do our research related to responding to those, there's information that comes up that's just, I think would be useful. And so we put some of that in the packet, and I've chosen to put some of it in this report. There's as always, a lot of information in the report. I won't go through it all, but certainly call your attention to the opportunities that we've got coming up with the advisory committees, the different events in the schools. They're all listed in there. You can see what's happening from an operations standpoint. A lot of great things to celebrate on behalf of extracurriculars this past weekend. At our high school, we had a lot going on. It was wonderful to see just a packed house. We had softball, baseball, lacrosse, and soccer, and band. And the band, wind ensemble, received the highest superior rating that you can get in their assessment, regional assessment. So wonderful news from them. They're doing an amazing job. State track is coming up. Well, I guess it just happened this weekend at Liberty. And you heard about swim and dive. You can see what's going. The speech team continues its reign of dominance. It has won the regional championship and it'll go on to the states, which it's won the last 6 years in a row, I think. I'm right about that. So related to what I said earlier, and Mr. Gifford, maybe I'll just pull this up. At the end of if you click on the report link and go to the bottom of that. So there was a discussion in the meeting about assistant principals. Why do we have a certain number of assistant principals? And I just wanted to share this with you. I put this together simply to respond to the question, which I will do in writing to all of the board members, including you. I'll do that with all of the questions I receive. I didn't know what I'd find necessarily. The reason we have the number of any staff that we have is first and foremost because the standards of quality set a minimum required number. And then from there, if it's teachers, the master schedule, how many kids need what subjects. But if you click on the AP numbers link, I just did an analysis of how many assistant principals are in each of the high schools regionally. These are the same schools that we continue to compare us to. I went ahead and threw some others that are neighboring because it was easy data to get. So I put Nelson and Buckingham and Cumberland. And, common thread. I didn't know that I was going to find this, but you can see if you just scroll down one cell, Josh, the other way, sorry. And I got this data off the school quality profile reports that's available to everybody. Numbers of APs, the student enrollment, you can see the ratio. We've got the highest ratio of anybody, meaning we have fewer staff in our high school with regards to assistant principals than anybody. I just wanted to point that out. We have fewer than Goochland. They also have a dean of students, which is not included in that number. You can see what would be, and I'm not begrudging Goochland that dean by any means. I'm just sharing the information.
I'll note that this is the kind of response that I want, and I don't mean to say expect in a way that's like menacing, but like expect from a leader. This is exactly the level of transparency that we need to give that board of supervisors when they ask these questions. And I really appreciate you putting it together. I don't know where I would have started, but this is awesome to answer the questions.
Absolutely, yeah. And then, Mr. Gifford, if you go back to the document, I think we're going to go over this during the budget item, correct?
We can, or we can do it now.
Let me just show it to you, and then when we get to the discussion of fiscal 25-26, there's been a lot of conversations about health insurance, and it came up again in the work session. Can you open that spreadsheet?
Not without permission.
Oh, I see.
Let me see.
Well, you know what? We'll get to it, and she'll give you permission. I'll just tell you. What Ms. Grasser has done is exceptional, as always, but she's put together an extensive comparison of the plans that are in place, again, using the same 5 divisions to be consistent. You can see exactly what what the rates are at each level. She's highlighted where the best rates are, where the worst rates are, and included, in addition to the school divisions, included the county. So you can see all of that. We'll get to that later in the agenda. Do you have any questions for me that anything you'd like me to highlight from the report? So I'll just let it stand.
I don't think so, but I do appreciate the partnership. Dr. Gretz has been at just about every Board of Supervisor meeting I've been at and is ready to take questions and go back and do homework and, and even in the most generous of budget seasons, that's our responsibility, but it requires even more so in years like this. And so I appreciate seeing you there and
Absolutely.
seeing the work that you do for us.
Thank you. The only other thing I'll call your attention to, and we don't even have to necessarily open it, Mr. Gifford, but you're revising the calendar kind of retroactively. I had some communication with all of you, just one-on-one, making sure that you would support our turning the 14th, forthcoming, what was going to be a work day into a instructional day because of all the time we lost. And so you'll see this as an action item where you're going to actually approve. The only change is that we've changed where the grading periods fall because of the missed days, but the change is that the 14th was going to be a staff day and it's now an instructional day. You have any questions for me? Okay.
Glad to see the weather change. Makes me a little less nervous about it. Maybe I should find some wood to knock on or something similar.
9B. You're done, Dr. Brooks.
Yes, sir. Okay, Ms. Suarez is going to join us here. And if you remember in the last meeting, there was a lot of discussion. At the end of the discussion, the request was for us to bring a draft revision of KLB, which is the public complaint about learning resources, incorporating some of the feedback that came from the committee that Ms. Suarez led, the board-appointed committee that worked on this process. And so she's done a wonderful job of putting together, kind of coalescing all of our thoughts around this. She's redlined what's new, and you can see what's stricken. And with that, Mrs. Suarez, thank you so much for your work on this. We'll turn it over to you.
Sure. So we started with the original KLB policy and then again, the revisions in red or things that are struck through our feedback from both staff and the Learning Resources Committee. The revisions of the policy, kind of to sum it up, really kind of work to better clarify who can file a complaint, as well as avenues for school supports for parents, students outside of this policy if they have concerns with classroom or instructional library materials. And then as well as to work to better kind of define the process for submitting a complaint, the review process, and a little bit to the appeal process. Really the most, I guess, notable change from the previous current policy or the current policy is that the committee membership no longer includes the board-appointed Learning Resource Committee. It reverts back to the previous school level committee, and that we also include the complainant, again, as the original policy did, to be part of that process. I'm happy to answer any questions or.
I have two quick questions for you. Looking under number 1, under the procedure for filing a complaint, was there any conversation or feedback around the person filing the complaint having a student enrolled in the school they are filing, like where the book is found? So like essentially if you have a elementary schooler, you couldn't file a complaint of a book in the high school.
There was a lot of feedback conversations, both from staff and throughout the duration of the Learning Committee process this year. We kind of tried to address it in that very first paragraph, and we really just aligned it with, because I think there was some sentiment about, really wanting to hear from parents and students, but really I think in terms of who could legally be allowed to, I don't think that we could exclude residents or taxpayers from that.
Okay. And then my next question is under number 2, part F. So I think I understand what it means, because I think we actually had this, or I don't know, there's a lot of conversation around where the books could end up. Modifying the scope of use of the material based on the material's educational suitability, relevance, accuracy, appropriateness.
Sure.
Just modifying the scope of use detail.
And that was the addition, and it was more just to allow for the flexibility. In fact, one of the books that this last review committee did, that was the decision, was to, while it was found that perhaps, age appropriateness for high school library in terms of student independent reading, but in terms of modifying it as a school counseling resource with parent permission, like under that context, the committee felt that that book then would be suitable under. So that's where the addition of modified comes in, just to allow that flexibility that if there's a different avenue for the material that, I guess another example could be maybe not, and a lot of our conversations has been about library, but this policy, right, is all encompassing for instructional materials too. So it could be maybe a situation where it was a classroom instructional resource that maybe, given standards of learning and educational goals might not fit within the context of a school day, but maybe the modification is an after-school club or something like that. It could be appropriate.
Okay. And now is it like if, just on like parental consent and things like that, is that something that needs to go in here? Like, I guess where does that, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'm just curious if we're saying the book goes from place A to place B.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere in here that we need to add something like that to clarify if it's removed from somewhere, but it's available somewhere else, that there's a opt-in essentially from a parent? I guess I don't know if I'm
It
describing.
could, or it could also kind of operate under the auspice of wherever it modified to. So oftentimes, well, usually like, for example, school counselors and groups and resources that they use, we do seek parent consent usually if it's an after school kind of, or book clubs and things like that. We do have that. So, but I'm happy to, we knew this would be a first review and that there might be questions or, a desire. So I'm happy to take that back and
I mean,
just
that
say,
was the
well,
only thing that I had is that, and I don't disagree with that being in there by any means. If we're just clarifying it, saying that, and I don't even really know. how
I mean,
to do
I
that.
think
It's gonna be a
you
different-
could probably say at the very end, after we talk about, age appropriate or appropriateness to age and grade level, you could probably follow that sentence with saying, and or parent notification permission as
Yeah.
appropriate or something like that.
I'd be perfectly fine with that, because I think if that's the whole point of the review, and hopefully we don't even ever have to use this, to be honest with you, but if it does go through, I think the whole point of it would be to make sure that it's relevant to the age and appropriateness of the students. And if we're saying this is kind of borderline, but it could serve a purpose here, I personally would not have any issue at all with having parents notified. And then everybody's on the same page between student, school, and home.
Ms. Source, who came up with the idea of making all these changes in red?
So I worked with staff, our admin, primary librarians, Dr. Gretz, and then both staff and board appointed Learning Resource Committee. They
So it's just a conglomerate to come up with, doing away with each person from each district.
well, that was more as a result of the request at last board meeting to come back with the original policy. And so we stuck with the original policy, but
It was meeting I missed, right?
Yeah, 4 of us asked for them to edit this document and provide guidance for us.
because the previous red line revision was actually the current policy that did keep in place the board appointed. And then we were asked at last board meeting to come back with what would it look like if we did this way.
Thank you.
And a lot of the specific feedback, if you remember, the committee members that you all appointed gave feedback in writing to the board, and a lot of that has been incorporated in here. The other thing sorry, Jim, I failed to say at the beginning. The board asked us to bring this back asked us to bring it as a draft that you could add as something that you approve under first reading if you so choose. Because of that, it's not on the agenda as an action item. You'd have to add it.
And there still is that other draft with the revisions of the current policy that does include the board appointed, that is very similar to this, so.
Any other questions? Board? Thank you.
So I guess I'll take that feedback and then any other directions, whether the desire is for next month or to come with revisions to this one, or to maybe have the other one again side by side. I wasn't sure timeline of like, were we looking to, if there was an urgency and timeline to adopt something new with revisions in April.
Say, I'd like to see the action item in April.
I'd love to have it. That way we can move on.
As it is here,
Well,
any
with the
changes?
one-
Yeah, and I would love, if that's fine, I would love to add that parental notification in there and. I mean, if everybody, good, I mean, tonight or next month, I mean, I'm ready to move on and. Put this behind us.
Yeah,
James, what's your?
No, certainly their parents ought to be notified, especially for age appropriateness, for any of these books, learning resource, whatever you want to call them.
I'm happy to see a slightly modified version under, for adoption next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Soros.
9C.
Is Jen in here?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Mrs. Valentine.
See.
Same document that comes to you every year at this time, numbers slightly different. Our plan remains exactly the same. In terms of, for 611, we are trying to use the money for 10 teaching positions. Sometimes that varies based on budget and salaries. And then for 619, which is the ECSC, it really only pays a partial salary. So that's all of the money that it covers. So our $597,155. I'm not giving you pennies, they're there. And that was for actual salary. And then the employee benefits, we're estimating we do a 75-25 because sometimes that's accurate, but like it might be different if someone has different benefits, but that's kind of an estimate and then we change it if we have to. And then you add in the proportionate set aside, which is our home-based and private school funds that we get. And so tie that into a total of 48,000. So the total that we're getting for 611 is $844,499. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page, or one of us is on the wrong page. I'm sure it's me. And then the next page, of course, and these are really the last two pages that you're looking at with this. It's $22,286. And again, that's that half. It's really only covering, and we've gone back and forth. We did a teaching position, then we tried to do an aide position, and we went back to the teaching position and it just covers, and we have to sign off that that's what this went towards. So those are the little numbers. The big number, of course, is on the front page or towards the front in terms of the total budget. But again, this is most of that's us. Questions? Okay. I always feel like I should be giving you all more. We've done the slideshow in the past where I take those numbers and put it into a little chart. I can do that for you next year if you'd like me to. I've got it ready. Thank you for everything you do to support our programs. I will tell you, I got to go to the, we have Medford basketball. And again, it's not all about activities, it's about instruction. But we went to the state championship for basketball and we won, but that's not what it's about. What it's about is we had, what did my email say? I think like 30 parents and family members that went to support these kids in Richmond. And if you could have seen the Fluco spirit, I mean, we have child shooting 3-pointers and the crowd just jumping up and cheering. And it really hit me that day. I don't know why. I've had the advantage of getting to watch my children do so many things, and there was never a participation. You might not have made a team, but there was never a participation question. And for these children, and I used to sometimes like, I can't believe I have to take them to practice again. These parents are getting 10 events a year and so happy that they're getting those experiences. So above and beyond salaries, above and beyond that, thank you for what you do for us. And I promise we try and use the money wisely.
Thank you.
Anything?
Dr. Gritz, can we schedule the Medford League students to come and be recognized publicly?
Absolutely.
We can ask, some of them don't like to come out after their bed, it's too close to bedtime, but we can try.
We could do it very early in the meeting to accommodate.
Yeah.
They certainly don't need to be here after our second round of public comment. Or second close, as the case may be tonight.
Looks like we got a lot of kids in here. A lot of
We
states.
we do. I actually got a letter just the other day from a grandparent about that event. I was gonna read it, find it. But, yeah, great.
Thank you. I'll be back next week to hopefully get your approval, or next month to hopefully get your approval.
Thank you.
Dr. Gritz, 9D.
Okay, members of the board, lots of information here. My recommendation is we've kind of lumped them together. Why don't we start with the current fiscal year? And we can pull up the very first, yes, thank you. Maybe you wanna cover here?
No, we're, you know, this is just our monthly report. We're continuing to monitor the expenditures at this time of year. There's lots of conversation about what big expenses we have left. I can tell you that it's not in this number, but we've entered the requisitions for the computer replacements and Chromebook replacements. And so you're going to see those as encumbrances or expenditures next month. And that's a pretty hefty expense there. At this point, I'm seeing that we're on track. And kind of related to all of that is in the General Assembly's budget, they of course went back and made a change to fiscal year 25 with the addition of $1,000 bonus. And they've allotted some money for that bonus, but it's not going to cover the entire amount. That's what I sent you the other day.
While she's looking for that, because this came up in the supervisors meeting also in a follow-up question. Just as a reminder, when the state gives the money, the reason it doesn't cover all of it is the state only gives its share for the standards of quality mandated positions, which for most school divisions is about half. For some, it's 54%, some it's 43%, but it's usually right about half of your staff. And it also is filtered through the local composite index. So just rounding numbers, we're on 0.39 something. So if you just say 0.4 out of 1, for every $1 that the state gives us to give that $1,000 or the 3% raise or whatever it is, for every dollar the state gives for those half of our employees, it only gives 40 cents, 60 cents of the dollar, excuse me, because we're at 0.4. We have to come up with 40 cents of the dollar. They give 60 cents of the dollar. So when the state gives a 3% raise to teachers, which is what you're going to see in the Richmond Times-Dispatch, or 5% raise, the real headline is not meant to be disparaging. But the truth is, the state is giving 60 cents of every dollar that it takes to give a 3% raise to half of Fluvanna's employees. And that's exactly what's being applied with this $1,000 bonus. Sorry for the rabbit trail.
That's okay. I can't find my tracks. So our portion of that bonus is going to be somewhere around $200,000 to $300,000. We're getting a little over $300,000 from the state to fund that. The language is such that you don't have to give it. You can decide how you want to distribute it. There's no local match required for this. For a lot of the things like that, when they typically do a 3% raise, there's a local match requirement. There's not a local match requirement for the $1,000 bonus. So you could decide you just want to give it to a certain group of people. I do not recommend that. I'll just go right out there and say that. You can decide that you want it to be less than, just take the money that you're getting from the state and divide it up and use that to do that bonus. I'm looking at the expenditures. If it's in that $200,000 to $300,000 range, I think we may be able to do that just off of positions that we've had this year that we've not refilled, where people left in the middle of the year, things like that. But I would like to have another month or so to take a look at that before I told you that definitively. Continuing to look at the expenditures and things that we have in place right now.
Sorry, I think I missed for a second and I was reading the doc from board docs and I missed it, but are you saying that there is there a local match component
There's
requirement?
not a local match requirement for this.
And so because we do somewhere between 40 and we're responsible for between 40 and 60%. Theoretically, instead of doing a theft, so assume for a moment that we're not gonna dip into our budget, which did not include a bonus. Do we know what the shares would be for part-time and full-time if we just took the state money and then implemented it?
I have not calculated that, but I can do that.
Yeah, do we have a world in which 500 for full and 250 for not full-time employees might expend the state's contribution without ransacking our end of year budget?
We can calculate it.
Perhaps.
There will be divisions that do that because they won't be able to come up with their share of it in the middle of the fiscal year.
It's just
I'm hopeful.
my problem with this, and I'm sure some supervisors are listening, is that I don't like to go back from a budget that we communicated need in. It's our responsibility to be fiscally conservative and good stewards, and we try to bring forth at the end of the year the everything we possibly can to them that we don't absolutely need, whatever is left. Going back and then bonusing out of that really doesn't, it like crosses the communication a little bit. Is the county doing something similar?
I believe that there was a bonus of 1% and for other employees.
They don't have the SOQ application
I know.
to contend with.
But they get,
It's not their
they have
fault.
a same kind of template, like the state will fund so many deputies, but not
Right.
all of the deputies. And so there are different funding formulas for them, yes. And I'm not sure of the timeline for their 1% bonus.
Could we work with the county and get guidance as to where they're headed? I hate when we're not doing the same thing at the same time. We're all public employees in this county, and it drives me nuts when our raises aren't similar size. I hate the fact that we're on different healthcare and our staff is paying more than their staff, all of that. But I think if we could figure out kind of where the county's headed, we can try to land this in a similar way. I don't know if other board members are thinking the same kind of thing.
I mean, I agree with not overspending, but I was thinking the same thing you were on. What does it look like if we just spend the state's version of it without ours? But I'm not quite as concerned with ours being different. And I say this with a lot of respect because I don't know if they have been super focused on making sure the schools are similar to the county either. So
Yeah, it's just hard to advocate when, if we don't set the tone and openly communicate, then it gets harder to advocate for what we need if they think that we're burning them on the back end, and it's kind of.
oh, yeah, I agree with that part. Like if we're getting money from the state and we just use that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see any issue with that because that's a very transparent way of where the money goes.
Are other board members inclined to ask one, so I'd like to know two numbers if you guys are down. One would be, what are the shares if we do a full share, if you will, for full-time and a half share for part-time, just dividing the state's money evenly according to like shares, if you will. And then two, how much would we need to spend if we just made it 250 and 500? My guess is the numbers on the first one will be a little bit lower than 250 and 500, and maybe there's a compromise in between so that the bonuses feel like in the spirit of substance.
I'm good with that. I'm okay with it.
We don't have to act on it, but it's just info, and I don't want to ask without, majority. And then, of course, what would it be if we, whatever the intent was, $1,000? So what is it if we do everything that's intended? If we just do 500, 250, and then what do we do if we zero out our contribution? Cool.
So we can absolutely do that. I mean, the choice could be to try to find a way to come up with the difference and give the full intended bonus to all staff. Could distribute what's there, as best as it goes, and we could certainly entertain a conversation with the county about helping us with the difference as well.
The state's not listening. I will say, I don't know, a lighthearted thank you for thinking of our staff and trying to make their compensation better. Bonuses are stupid. They don't hit VRS. It doesn't help them in the long run. Put your money where your mouth is and actually fund education. That'll fall on deaf ears, but I gotta say it because I'm tired of pulling punches.
Well, and this is kind of that whole thing that we've talked about before, where they have a very large revenue surplus, but they're reluctant to spend it on recurring costs because they feel like the economy is going to tank and then they'll need that money for rainy days. And so they are very inclined to do these one-offs, like school construction or something like that, where they're just allocating this money one time and then they're done with it. So I know that that's the spirit behind this. But certainly bonuses are not my favorite thing. And if you ask my payroll people, they would totally agree with me.
It's awesome how they can backstop themselves, but when they cut the support staff cap as a one-time stopgap, it's in there in perpetuity.
I won't disagree. Okay.
Mr. Grasser, I'm gonna ask you a question before we move on. You mentioned Chromebook replacements. I've been on this board before and they've replaced Chromebooks one year, 5,000 Chromebooks. Well, we didn't have but 3,400 students. So how many are we getting this time?
I can't answer that, but Mr. Gifford may be able to answer that.
1,500?
16.
Not everybody's getting one.
They're on a revolving.
Every year, 4-year replacement cycle.
Are they,
Except for that 1 year. Thank you.
We try to do it on a cycle where we're doing just some each year versus trying to have one big expense in 1 year. And then the next year you don't have it, and then next thing you know, it's due again. So we're trying to do a planned replacement cycle, so it's a little bit at a time.
I appreciate that about what you all do is that, instead of having to saddle up to a CIP and ask for some odd $1,000 above the threshold in order to get our technology replaced, staggering, it makes a whole lot of sense when you can stagger. Things like servers are a little harder if hardware and software are updated, but doing this on a 4-year cycle really makes it more bite-sized.
And then the second page of this is the supplemental appropriations, and you've seen those before. We have one, a security grant, one that went down last week, but I think they've tabled that into their next meeting. That security grant is for the cameras at Carysbrook and the middle school. It's replacing some cameras and then putting in new cameras in areas that we've identified that aren't covered right now. I think at the middle school, a lot of that concern is in the rear of the building and that track area. Just trying to make sure we have all of that covered. These security grants are really kind of tricky. We get, every year the application comes out, we apply for every one of our schools to get one. We put down things that we know we need to replace or upgrade or add to. And then Honestly, I can't tell you the rhyme or reason for how the state decides which school is gonna get funded from one year to the next. And typically, they don't fully fund what you ask for, you just get a portion of the funds. And there is a 25% match required with all of those particular grants. This year, we had 3 different pots of money for school security. So we had that one, we had a federal security grant, and then we had another state one that was like a supplemental grant that they issued. So those have been they're very confusing. Because we didn't want to have to come up with that match for that $128,000, we used for our local match, we used the door locks that the county had already paid for in their CIP as the local match, so we didn't have to ask for a supplemental appropriation for that particular grant. And so I know that's a little confusing, and that was some of the questions that the county had, so I just wanted to clarify that for everybody. And then the grant at the bottom is a new one that the state came up with, and Caitlin Harlow-Berner is organizing that for us. It's really designed to do community outreach and have parents be more involved in school. And I know Dr. Gretz's parent advisory is working with her with those grants as well.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. She applied for $5,000 and they were so impressed with her application, they gave her 10. And it's basically money that we can use to support families, engage families. So there's a lot of ideas on the table for how to use that to enhance Fluco Fest, back to, I'm drawing a blank now, the bash. I'm looking at Caitlin.
Back to school bash.
Yes, the back to school bash, I'm sorry. So yeah, wonderful work and not to be redundant, but that question did come up in the work session. I want to make sure that's very clear. I think the question was, because we were applying the money that we were spending on the door locks as a match, and that money came from the county through carryover funds, there was a question as to whether or not we were asking the county for money for door locks and then asking the state for money for door locks. And that wasn't the case. The expenditure on door locks was for something totally different. But the punchline of that is that didn't happen yet, so.
Yeah. So
we
the
don't
last
have
3
that.
are in their packet. Hopefully they'll approve those next month. And I mean, if they don't, we'll just not get the money. So I'm hoping that they will do
Yeah, I
that.
don't.
And the 2 security grants expire at the end of June, so we have a pretty tight timeline on those particular grants. And one thing I want to point out, because it comes up from time to time, is every time we do a supplemental appropriation, I include the category that's impacted by that. And then when you look at the budget at the top, you see original allocation and then a revised budget, and that's where those numbers come from, or is that chart there at the bottom. So that's where those your categorical appropriations come from. Any questions about 25?
So the other items that we have in here, we don't need to go through them all. I just want to make sure you're clear on what's here, and then we will look at a couple of them. We've included the budget presentation. That's the third one. You don't have to click on it, Mr. Gifford, but just so it's part of the record, that's the presentation that we did to the county of your budget, school board's budget. And then you have the budget document. The supplemental appropriation request is what we just went through. That's the micro grant. Did you update the salary study?
It's the last,
Okay.
no, it's not the last one. I'm sorry. It's the second to the last one,
So-
that one.
This is information that was new and that we added after the fact.
So
Go ahead.
what I did was now we're hearing what other school divisions are recommending in terms of their raises for next year. And, we've talked about this, not only did teachers, because this definitely takes a lot of time to put together, but we've had this discussion and it's come to fruition where, when we did the original look at it, we were behind in some areas, but not all of them. And now we're in essence falling further behind. The the aqua blue cells, I don't have their actual scales for next year. So when they say they're gonna do a 3% raise, I can do that off of their steps, but I don't really know what they're gonna be, what their starting pay is gonna be. So that's just, I just kind of rounded up what they had as starting pay for this year. And then, but Louisa is saying they're gonna do a 3% plus step and then 4% for classified. And Goochland's at 5%, Charlottesville's at 5.5%, and Albemarle's at 3%.
The step is usually anywhere from 1% to 1.2, something like that. So Louisa is effectively a 4%.
Yeah, and that, the number for Flavanna, that is our proposed scale for next year, so that is with our 3%. And then if you look over to the right-hand side of this, you can see what, in addition to the 3, you would have to do in order to be the average or 3 out of 5 on this particular scale. So it's just information.
Yeah, it's just information. Do you have questions about it? It's just so we all,
So to clarify, essentially 0 to 20-year-long teachers in Fluvanna, we are dead last, even with a raise. And we are weakest in our middle tenured teachers for pay.
Yes.
yeah, and that's if they apply what in their board meetings they've approved. Nobody knows what it's all gonna look at. It's
I'm not
important.
sure we're gonna get 3. I mean, they're meeting down the hill now and it doesn't look positive.
Well,
That 3% we have in there is not a guaranteed thing.
right, and
Sure.
the issue with that is if we don't do the 3%, we won't get the funding.
Oh, I know. Not saying it's deterministic, I'm just saying that.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Based on where they're at in their budget discussion, literally presently,
And
So-
then,
they may not be able to
No.
give us enough for it.
so the one up from that, Mr. Gifford, the health insurance rate comparison, this will make your head hurt a little bit, and I apologize. It'll be easier
It's
to look at online.
Great data though. It's really is great data.
So what I did was I took the school divisions we compare ourselves to and then also the county. And where you see the little pink highlights, that indicates that that's the highest rate. And you will see that we have the highest rate in quite a number of areas in terms of our health insurance. And then I did try to highlight in yellow if the school division had a different kind of rate structure. So Albemarle only has an 800 and 1,000 and a high deductible. And so that's why that 800 is highlighted in yellow. And their rates are, you know, pretty high for that $800 deductible. Charlottesville has a 0 deductible, which I have literally never heard of in this modern time.
But before you pass on there, at the
Yeah.
bottom also,
Oh, yeah.
she's included what they've indicated in their board meetings is gonna happen next year. And so you can see Albemarle is looking at a 24% increase next year also.
Yeah, what they told me was they were anticipating a 24 for this year and a 20 for next year. And they are self-insured. The,
So
Yeah.
Charlottesville, sorry.
so Charlottesville has the 0 deductible, 1,000 deductible, and then a high deductible plan. Goochland has a 250 and a 500 and a high deductible. And that's why that one's kind of a little weird, because I looked at their 500, but they're not in the same column as the other 500s.
Our richest plan is their tier 2 plan.
Yeah.
So you could almost put those rates up in the top to really compare ours to theirs. They're still lower.
And they're anticipating a 5% increase. And Louisa's out to bid, so they don't have a rate yet. And I did see where they made a request of their county for funding for next year and then said plus whatever the increase is for health insurance. And then the last area is the county budget, and they're anticipating a 6.4% increase. And you see where their rates are.
So I know historically the answer has been because our claims are high. But is there any impact on who the provider is, knowing that others use different providers with these rates? I mean, I know everybody's, it sounds like it's going up, but I'm just curious. I can't imagine that's the only factor is we just have more claims. And if it is, then I would say, how do we look into maybe helping our employees have less claims? I mean,
It's a great question.
But like,
The other thing I wondered when I looked at this, and I don't know this, it was a question I had, that I think I'll go back and ask our consultant. Goochland is actually closer to the Richmond area. And so I'm wondering if it has anything to do with the hospitals that you're using or the providers that you're using versus this area. And I don't know the answer to that, but it struck me when I was looking at this. How are they affording to do this? I mean, we've gone out to bid and looked at other providers and the rates were virtually the same. So I believe it really has to do with our claims.
And it's not the numbers of them so much as the types.
Right.
You know, well, I guess that goes without saying. The other thing that's interesting though, Brenda, do you mind sharing which of these are joint programs with their counties?
I know, Louisa is, Goochland is. I'm not sure about Charlottesville, and I think Albemarle is as well.
so we're looking at,
Do you know about Goochland? Are they?
Goochland is for
Goochland's
sure.
with theirs, okay,
so we're looking at nearly all of these are joint with their county. And nearly all of these are cheaper than what we're paying. So we're not only dead last and way behind in salary, but we're also behind in insurance.
We're highest in,
Right,
lowest
so
in
like-
salary, highest in
It
cost.
costs most to work here and you're getting paid less. And we're also one of the only, if not the only one that's not tied in with the county.
You know, the thing to look at, if you, Josh, if you want to scroll back to us, the royal blue. You know, the first column is what our employees are paying. You have to look at the total as well, because if you look in each of these divisions, you really have to sit with this data for a while. You can't do a lot with it just right off the bat. You'll have to look at it in your spare time and process it, but the total premium and how much each division is paying towards that is very different. And the types of plans are different. We're looking at, you know, Goochland's, well, Charlottesville, I've never seen that either, zero deductible plan. I mean, an employee is paying $150 a month for that, whereas ours are paying $96, but they don't have a deductible.
Must be nice.
I mean, that's pretty incredible.
I will
Goochland
say-
is at $250, which is about as low. I don't think there are many of those around anymore.
No.
That's very.
Is there a way,
250 up till a couple of years ago.
is there a way to figure out what our cost would be to bring those exact programs here? I mean, I know when we put it out to bid, we're getting a lot of that information, but
Well, I haven't done it recently. I will do it again, but when I applied a couple of years ago, when I applied the county rates to our census, it was gonna cost another $1 million.
Because dental and vision, that's not. tied.
Our dental and vision is not included, but most people included dental and vision. So to do the comparison, I added dental and vision to ours.
So once you're at dental, vision, life insurance and all this stuff, that's still additional cost that's really not there yet.
Well, I put the
This one
dental and
includes
vision
it.
in here.
Okay.
That's why if you look at a rate sheet later and you look at this and go, well, she's wrong, she wrote down 96, that's because I added, and I assumed comprehensive dental and vision. And most of, you know, some of them have it included, some of them don't, and so I just tried to put it all together so we were comparing apples to apples.
do we know how long these other districts have been with their county on insurance?
I can speak to Goochland just because I was there, and that was probably 2013. They've been at it a long.
When they merged, so you're
Yeah.
going on a long time. I'll just ask it, and I know for whatever reason, this county doesn't like this question being asked overall. Schools just in general. Is this just because this is how it's always been done here?
Is that why we don't, not we, is that why we just don't really look at this stuff to really push hard? Is that the answer is like, this is how
Having
it's
a
always
joint
been done?
program?
I find
I've
that
only
to
been
be
here
the
3
answer with a
years.
lot of stuff in Fluvanna, so I'm just curious, because I've never asked that question that directly as it relates to
Roughly
insurance.
15 years ago, I want to say, we were on the same self-insurance plan. We went to Gateway, we all did it together, and it was a horrible mess. I mean, the entire thing was a mess, and it only lasted for a year or so. And we had a lot of, both of us and the county had a lot of, run out claims, I mean, big bills. And so since that time, I think after that, we both went to other things. And then I know it was probably about 4 years ago, we thought that we would do a bid together, and there was a plan to do a common bid. And then we started trying to get vendors, and people wouldn't bid on it if it was together. And so we were getting feedback, it's just gonna cost too much, we can't even give you a price. And,
So how
but
does
we
that
have
work?
not tried that since that time.
Yeah. I
Um,
would love for us to try it again, but I'm kind of confused why when you look, I mean, Louisa's really no more or less rural than what we are.
right, I don't know how to,
We're in the process now of evaluating it, because remember when we were at the joint work session, it kind of came up and Eric and I were tasked with doing it. We haven't gone very far.
Yeah.
We're in the process of doing it. What it typically involves, in my experience, what it typically involves is when the county comes on, they have to take on either a higher portion or a higher premium. When anytime the schools are coming on with the county anywhere, there's always a disparity that means they either have to give more money to bring the rates in line with the counties, or the county's got to take on a higher premium.
I mean, my concern by reading the data, and I've lived this being on school insurance since 2011. The time where your employees get to having families is also the time that we are paid the worst out of all of these surrounding counties. And that's also the time that you're switching to a family plan with your insurance. I'm so thankful we have these people here, but it only takes one job application to open for them to be like, I can go get paid thousands of dollars more. Plus it's a bonus because my insurance goes down and I'm only gonna drive an extra 13 minutes. Like, I don't know what's going on down that hill right now to potentially impact this, but at some point we have to fix this.
well, sometimes staff will say to me, don't even show me this.
I know, and that's horrible because then,
Because it makes me feel bad, like I
Yeah.
don't want to see it.
I mean, it's kudos to the people we have here, but
Yeah,
if this were not a school system and this was a corporate run business, your people would be leaving in mass exodus because of pay and insurance benefits. I'll leave it at that. Don't leave teachers and staff, please, but corporate America, this would be a lot different of a scenario.
well, and that's why I feel so strongly about advocating, because I feel like we have people that are very loyal and stay here for many, many years, and sometimes we punish them for being loyal. And then we have, people come and go.
Yeah, if you, I mean, there, like I said, she just did this today. So we haven't had an
Yeah.
opportunity, and she did a phenomenal job with it, research and the presentation of it, but there's a lot to process. I'm just doing some simple math, and when you look at the percentage of the total premium that the employer is paying in all these scenarios, I think that's gonna be very telling to them.
Not only that, but like, I mean, you just look at the total premium for each of these things. I mean, there are moments where our employee family $500 deductible is 30% higher from a surrounding division. Like, is there ground truth that Fluvanna staff are 30% less healthy than the surrounding divisions? I find it remarkably hard to believe. Like, what else is driving this? Because
That's what I'm so concerned about is like, what other factor is making our stuff so much more expensive?
like, honestly, I don't know why our staff stay here. I am thrilled that they do. We can't operate without them, but like, to get the lowest pay and then the highest insurance is just absolutely ridiculous and is unsustainable. And is germane and relevant to the conversation going on down the hill right now. Because we cannot operate this division and keep our talented staff and recruit great new staff for, honestly, less than what we've asked for. And, it's looking worse and worse by the hour here. And luckily, we have a couple more weeks until they pass it, but without a robust support for our school division, I'm not sure where we're headed.
I will say you are self-insured, which means you set the rates based on anticipated claims. But if your claims are lower than what was anticipated, that money stays in your claim fund to fund future claims.
In my first year here, you were actually able to do that from or maybe it was my second year, but you were able to eat the cost using that savings, which is a benefit that people that are self-insured can never do. That is a positive thing.
We do have a disproportionate amount of cancer claims and
Do
large
we?
claims. Yes,
More so than other surrounding divisions.
I wouldn't know that.
Yeah, I know.
I
Can we ask our-
I look at, they give me data based on, the health insurance trends and the trend data that they're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, this
To
should
be
all.
clear, we don't see people. and-
Yeah.
I get that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, there should be an objective, I mean, shoot, everybody's using actuarial tables for everything. But like, what is the average per capita expense of an average employee in a school division or something? Like, there is clearly a dissonance or difference between what the average per capita is and what we're getting or what we're seeing. They're like, I just don't understand how we can be such an outlier. And so I guess I'm trying to understand.
We can have Sam come and talk with the board. I'm sure, I mean, he'd do that.
Yeah, if you need a
We can answer
preface
some
for
of that.
what we're gonna ask, you can ask them why our health insurance is so damn expensive. I mean, I think that'll about summarize my questions.
I'll word it just like that.
You know, I've met Sam a couple times. I don't think he'd mind it.
No, he doesn't.
Okay, and so the last document is the personnel per thousand, right?
Yes. So one of the questions we got was why we had the number of staff we had related to our enrollment. So this chart actually is an average from fiscal year 18 to fiscal year 23. 23 is the last data that the states put out. We'll get 24 next month. But it shows you, it kind of allows it to look at the enrollment and then how many teachers per 1,000 students you have. So it kind of makes everything a baseline. And you'll see that over that course of time, we actually have the lowest number of teachers per students.
Also means the highest caseloads on top of the lowest pay and highest insurance to qualify it.
That would be correct.
Yeah.
Danny, stop hard selling our division, man. What are you trying to do? Get us?
We have
over
great
one
people
day?
here. We have great people here. Come
You
work
have
with us.
great people here.
Absolutely, we do. And, you know, the purpose for the data is just to tell the story, to show the story. I mean, there's a reason why we're asking. I'm not speaking for the board, but there's a reason why the budget looks like it does. I mean, the requests aren't made in a vacuum. And when you actually pull down the data behind some of the anecdotal work that happens, you see this. And we didn't know what this was gonna look like.
I think it's very important moving forwards. I love this data and I appreciate y'all pulling it, but this is why this data needs to be shared with the 5 of us and the 5 of them multiple times in person all throughout budget season.
Actually, before I leave today, there were about 3 or 4 new pieces of data that we don't have for the Board of Supers. And I got 5 stacks there so that I can make sure that we have all of our data available to the supers every week from here on out. I'd love to shove 5 copies of each of those in there and make sure we have them on hand for the next budget session.
Well, they got that.
I know, they don't always have
Sorry
it
about this.
Okay.
on hand.
I see. Yeah, no, some of this was kind of sparked by some of the questions we were getting. And we were like, you know, maybe we can put some information together that tells a better story then just responding to the question doesn't always get to the meat of it.
And I'll take it a step further, just giving them the piece of paper doesn't qualify it like we just did.
Yeah.
Highest teacher to student ratio means the biggest caseload for the cheapest pay and the highest insurance. If that can't be said in person, and I have advocated for this for a long, we have now missed 2 consecutive years worth of budget sessions because we didn't know if it was a formal meeting or not. And I'll leave it at that, like that. We have to be able to sit 5 on 5 and not rely on asking crowd members. I love that you're there. This is not a knock on you at all. We cannot rely on asking crowd members, what does this qualify? What does this mean? We need a 5 on 5 board to board conversation because we're the only other elected board in the county. You can ask the sheriff, I'm venting a little bit, but I think it's worth it. You can ask the sheriff when he's there. It's not an elected board. You can ask all of the other nonprofits. They're not an elected board. We don't work for the county. We were elected to go do the same type of job that they do, just with a different focus. That deserves a 5 on 5 face-to-face meeting multiple times throughout budget season, especially when we're half the county's budget.
I will note that I can't
More and more people.
set the meetings, but if I'm not in this boardroom, I'm down the hill basically for half the year. And doing my best to advocate.
Which I love, but it needs to, the extension of both of us working together as boards has to be there. I mean, it just has to be there. And it's right now for the last 2 to 3 years, it has not been there. Which makes this piece of paper look like, oh man, like, and I'm not knocking, this might look good to somebody who doesn't know what that piece of paper means because we're the lowest. Like, we have to be able to sit around a table and qualify this stuff. Whether we get the funding or not, we at least need to be able to put our best foot forward in asking for it. And I don't think we can do that right now, whether we ask for $1 or $1 million, because we're not able to have this back and forth discussion. I'll step off my soapbox.
Well, so one of the things that I, try to do in budget season, make sure that we're not overlap with the supers. Tonight is an example where I can't remember how we left it the last time, but because we're overbooked with them, they're talking about the budget now and moving numbers around, and we're sitting up here talking about really important things, but
Yeah, but
we're
how
not
many
able to
times have we
advocate.
been table to table with them over the last 3 months?
Very few.
0, outside of the one, I think in December, maybe.
I think that your summary is apt. I don't want to restate it for you. I can watch it back on the video, but I think if I were to re-quote it again, you said it was the lowest.
It's the
You wanna do
highest caseload for the lowest pay with the highest insurance.
Put it out there for anybody watching at home who wants a nice pull quote for the interwebs.
For sure.
And I'm just gonna kind of slide this in there. He doesn't know I'm gonna say this. He's probably don't know. One of the questions we were asked in the last couple of days was how many teachers live in Fluvanna County? And that seems like a relatively simple question, but we don't have someone who's in charge of HR. And so we have to go back and pull data out of one of our payroll systems or something to determine who lives in Fluvanna and look at zip codes. And we're spending hours doing that kind of work because somebody asked that question. And in theory, we should already have that somewhere. That'd be easy to have, but we have people that are trying to do these things in addition to doing their other job responsibilities. And that's a challenge.
We've got the bigger picture with all of this, just to bring it back to this point. We've gotten a lot of questions, some in the meeting, some after the meeting. I'm trying to answer them all. And this is just some of the data that has come along the way. And a lot of the information is germane to that. I mean, questions about exit data, exit interview data, things like that. But we are pulling it all and getting all this together, and I'm eager to share it with you. And hopefully do it like this so everybody can see it.
Well, and every time we get a question, I offer to meet individually, to go over things, go over templates and funding formulas and any of that stuff. And I'm happy to do that anytime.
How many employees does the county have?
I don't know.
I know in schools we have a lot.
It's at least a 2-to-1 ratio. That's like the best I can give. We're in the low
closer to five.
500s.
High 500
What is it,
right
a
now,
5-1?
like 5.
Yeah, they've about 100 employees, I
Oh,
think.
is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, so pretty substantial.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank
kind
you.
of sucks to be here when they're making some pretty big moves down the hill right now. I'll put that out there to a
They
point.
haven't set a tax rate yet, so.
Well, that's the good thing. We have a maximum and the maximum doesn't get the schools to 1.9 by any stretch of the imagination unless every other department is tanked. And, yeah.
9E, we done?
The Perkins plan is in there for first review. I don't think Christie's here tonight. But she put this information together and we had a CT advisory meeting last night. And I think it's pretty much the same, that there's not any substantial changes to the plan at this point. I will say that with all of the federal funding, we're keeping an eye on it. We had originally been told that even if the Department of Education was eliminated, that the funding would go to other departments. And then we heard that may or may not be the case. And so just kind of keeping an eye on that because as Ms. Valentine stated earlier, we have a number of positions that are funded with federal funds, particularly in the area of special education. I also don't know with some of those decisions, what that might mean in terms of a lot of the requirements we have for special education are federal. And so if that department was to go away, how would the state go about handling it? How would they make up for that difference in the federal funds? I don't know what that might look like.
So they haven't said anything about the federal funds routing through the state? Like even if VDOE has changes to it, money routing from, so like we would receive the same money, it would just route through the state. They haven't talked about that at all.
They have
I
not
haven't
talked
found
about
it.
that, but that's pretty much what happens now.
Yeah.
And so we write a grant and it goes to our state and then the state decides how the funds are dispersed amongst the different counties. They do their funding formulas and distribute the funds. So that part for us would be the same if they just send the money to the Department of Eds.
Yeah.
That's a possibility.
Things will get way slower, I'm sure, at a 50% staff reduction right now at the federal level.
Well, and I will tell you, the state Department of Ed here seems to have a lot of turnover and just staff that don't have as much experience as previous staff that we've worked with. And so it's a little bit of a roller coaster for us sometimes as well.
Frequently makes me wonder if some of that isn't on purpose.
Any other questions? All right, on the 10A, unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business? On the 11A, any new business? Okay, on 12 action items, 12A. I entertain a motion for approval of updated 2024-25 academic calendar.
Move to approve the 2024-2025 academic calendar as presented.
Thanks, Danny. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks. Rittenhouse, you have any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? On to 12B. Approval of the next board meeting for 9/25. Did we set a time for that?
You asked for 3 o'clock.
3. Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we amend the closed session time for our meeting on April 9th, 2025. For closed session to begin at 3 p.m. Eastern and for open session to begin at 6:30 p.m. Eastern.
I'll second.
All right, I got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Any opposed? On to 13A, public comments. Come to the time of our meeting for public comments. I remind everyone that policy only members of the community, meaning residents of Fluvanna and staff of Fluvanna County Public School, may address the board unless you are legal counsel representing a group interested in tonight's proceedings. We welcome all community members who are here to give information or opinions. We'll ask you to come to the podium, tell your name, address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. We'll start with the names on the sign sheet. We'll welcome your input if you didn't sign up. During public comments, the board will not interact with you. Got anybody signed up? Or anybody who wants to come forward to speak?
Hello, my name is Ashley Crocker. I live in the Fork Union District. I didn't think I was going to be here tonight, so I didn't prepare very much because I was at the first grade musical, which was just about the cutest thing I've ever seen. Shout out to Miss Ravitsky, the new music teacher at Central, for doing a really fantastic job. I did want to come up here and say thank you to Mr. Reed and thank you to Dr. Kelly for really engaging in this budget conversation, asking good questions, and proposing good ideas. The two boards should meet at least quarterly, if not monthly. There's no reason that your budget should be a surprise to the folks down the hill, and that's not a slight on you. If I'm being honest, every time I come to one of these meetings, I leave thinking that I need to move immediately to give my kids a fair shot. I hope that by the end of this budget season, I'll feel better about that, but honestly, I'm not feeling very hopeful. Thank you for the work that you do and the advocacy that you're doing for your kids, and I hope that the Board of Supervisors will follow your lead.
Have anybody else want to come to speak? Seeing nobody else coming, we'll close second round of public comments. All right, on to school board member comments. I'll start to my right with Dr. Kelly.
Per usual, I want to start with gratitude and thank our staff and administration and our leaders here for doing just a knockout job week over week, providing us with the data that we need, going down the hill and being open to questions, finding great ways to answer them. Like, you all are doing a fabulous job, and we will be temporarily rudderless without some of us. And so just thank you for continuing to knock it out of the park. I'll note that our budget is not full of superfluous things. There's nothing in there that's a pie in the sky or a want. Like, this is a true expression of need that came from majority of this board. I know that things are tough down the hill. I know that setting a tax rate is difficult. That is the job that they are elected for, and we're elected to advocate and tell the Board of Supervisors what we need. I'll note that we're going to move into closed session here and take care of the rest of our business tonight and get out of here a bit too late. But to the extent that people are interested, there is action down the hill this evening, and there will be for the next couple of weeks. And to the extent that you want to see us be able to actually give raises to our teachers, which is in genuine jeopardy. Genuine jeopardy. If the number that comes from down the hill is too low, there are things in that budget that our students need that I will put before staff raises. You can run me out of office whatever year it is. I don't really care, because I'm going to advocate for our students first. And so to the extent that we want to be able to compensate our staff, how do I say this? In the least generous way possible in the best circumstances, given the data I've seen, then it requires some advocacy from all of us to let our supervisors know that we need to fund our schools. And I know that tax rates require business and so on and so forth, and I'm not envious of that role, but I'm going to continue to full court press and advocate for our staff and students, because ultimately cutting corners and not funding education leads to terrible outcomes for our kids. It leads to increased spending later in life when our students aren't able to find jobs or are in legal trouble or don't have the skills they need to be fully employed and active members of our citizenry. And so I hope that we can find a way to voice those concerns to those who ultimately have the authority to do something about it. Lots of amazing things coming up. I want to apologize for, I missed both a band and a choir concert, which is nearly a cardinal sin for me. I was in meetings for both of those and I'm horrified by it. I know that there's a career and technical education night coming up. I think it's next Tuesday. Of course, I will be at VSBA bringing some of our students' art there. If a member doesn't show up to the VSBA, our students' art cannot be included in the competition. So I won't be able to make the career and technical education night that I really love going to. But I highly encourage everybody else to do it, to be there. Next Wednesday, we'll have yet another meeting for the Piedmont Regional Education Program. If you guys have questions about that, either board members or the public, hit me up. I'm happy to talk ad nauseum about that. So a lot of great things going on, a lot of amazing things coming out of our buildings. And I am genuinely optimistic that when things calm down after next week, that I'll see a bunch of our staff and our students in the building shortly. Central, I am headed your way first.
Thanks, Dr. Kelly. Mr. Rick.
Yeah, but just like Mr. Kelly, thank Ms. Grasser and Mr. Gretz for your presentation, very clear and very forthright. Does bring a lot of things to light. And on another note, last week I went and read at pre-K class over at Central and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was actually Miss Reed's class and some others came in there and little kids, they're just absorbing everything you say and they're sitting in front of me asking me questions while I'm trying to read, but it was fun. It was really nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rick. Mr. Reed.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I could echo, but due to time, I don't want to either to exactly what my fellow board members have said. I will just put this nugget out there. If I remember correctly, it was prior to me being on this board, one of the biggest reasons why we had that huge, I think it has been called historic by many, was because we lagged behind in pay for years and we didn't address it. There is no way around it. There will have to be a historic budget passed at some point in time again if we lag behind in pay. And I would just ask anybody listening to please keep that in mind because the compensation war is not going to stop probably ever or anytime soon. So if we don't want a historical budget, let's at least stay as close to possible, staying on par. To piggyback off of Mr. Rittenhouse, the question that I was asked after I read last week was, what do you do for a living? And it came from a preschooler. So the fact that we have kids that are roughly 4 years old asking those kind of questions is awesome. But I also don't want to let some of these conversations in our meetings that are sometimes doom and gloom overshadow all the good stuff going on in the schools. So got a lot of great people here and a lot of good stuff going on.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. I just want to kind of piggyback what he just said, kind of my last comments, that we have kids, state champions in track, swim, speech, band. I mean, everything. That just says the work that our teachers are doing with our students to be fantastic. So that's when it's a shame when we hear the presentation and we're last and everything. We have kids that are doing fantastic work with less. So imagine what our teachers and students could do with more. That would be amazing. So thank you. So at this point, I'll take a motion to go back into closed session.
Mr. Key, just really quick, I'm sorry, I meant to do this at the beginning. Because we missed it because of the weather, I just wanted to honor our school board clerk and ask her to come down front here and we just have a little certificate for you.
And one other thing, Rick, so thank all the schools for giving us
Yes,
all this
absolutely.
stuff. It was, okay. It was school board members recognition, yeah.
Mr. Chair, do you want?
Yes, I'll take a picture. Yep.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
If I knew we were doing this, I'd have worn my suit and a vest.
Thank you for all the work you did. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We can't without you, you know.
Thank you, Ms. Brandy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Great tomorrow.
They don't
I'm
want me to
gonna
ruin
start
the
the
picture of
rumor
that.
that they all went to.
All right, thank you.
We really do appreciate you, Brandy. You do an amazing job. And as you said, each year a school adopts a school board member, and so you have different things from them. We weren't able to do this last month, and I will say, Mr. Key, whoever gets that school every year, those are the actual thumbprints of the kids.
Oh, that's
Thank
cool.
the last 3 years I've got a picture and I really appreciate
Yes.
it.
I have a large piece of canvas at the house too that's been painted, which is lovely.
So at this point, we'd have to reconvene back in a closed session to finish some unfinished business.
Yep, and so that's Mr. Key's polite way of kicking you all out for the evening.